Welcome back to the Full Court Talk podcast. Today, for our 85th episode, we have a special guest. For our first topic, we talk about Trae Young and his possible trade request. Then we talk about the possibility of James Harden reuniting with the Houston Rockets. And for our final topic, we talk about Miles Bridges and how he is gaining traction to re-sign with the Charlotte Hornets. But without further ado, enjoy. Welcome to Full Court Talk. This is episode 85. You know, CJ's back at it. How you doing, CJ?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Holidays went well. How about you?
Good, man. We got a new guest. Why don't you introduce yourself, Dylan?
Right. My name is Dylan McNeil. I'm a senior at Sacramento State. I love hoops. I love the Warriors. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. How were your holidays?
It was really cool. I mean, I'm back with the family. It was weird. There was like this earthquake and it knocked out power for a couple days. So I was like living off the grid for a couple, but we back. I missed the awful Warriors game against the Knicks. So I didn't see that. That was probably great. But yeah, man. Everything's good.
That's good, man. I didn't even feel an earthquake, so I'm glad I'm not in that part. We used to talk about the Warriors a lot when we were in our classes. So I'm excited to have you. This is gonna be fun.
Yes, sir.
As you guys know, Trae Young reportedly is thinking about requesting a trade, according to Marcus Thompson. He's under team control until 2026. So, then why don't you start us off? Where do you think he would fit best if he requested a trade?
Where I think he would fit best might not be like the most logistical package, but I think that pairing with Bam Adebayo and the Miami Heat's team defense would be just about perfect. I know Atlanta wouldn't want to trade it to a team nearby like Miami, but if the deal is good enough, they'll have to take it. I just think from Trae Young's perspective, that's probably your best way to becoming a title contender, or at least a team that can make a serious run in the playoffs.
And CJ, what do you think?
Oh, definitely, he has to stay in the East for me. I was gonna also say Miami, but I also, for some reason, my wild card is with Toronto. I see him being a solid running mate next to Van Vliet, and I think it would just be a lot of fun to have those two in the backcourt. However, they are a bit undersized, and defense would definitely be a problem. So, like Dylan says, I think if it had to come down to it for the better of his career, Miami would work just because they can mask his defensive weaknesses. And, playing alongside Bam would be perfect. We see what he's done with Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu. And I think Bam would just thrive off of him even more. But the thought of him playing against or playing with Van Fleet is just intriguing to me. And I think if there's a coach that could definitely get him to be disciplined, I think it would be Nick Nurse. I think he would be solid. And, it's crazy because we didn't really know that he was having issues with Nate McMillan until I was late. But, Toronto was definitely intriguing me. But Miami makes no sense.
Yeah,
Why do you want to move Trae Young?
Yeah.
Obviously, you brought in DeJounte. You gave Trae I think it was like 4 for 160, the big deal, the max deal. You kind of catered everything since he was a rookie just to have it be the Trae Young system, and then he sees it and he pretty much shrugs his shoulder and wants to leave. Where do the Hawks go if they do end up trading Trae Young?
Yeah, that's the weird thing, right? Like they've invested so much into him, and they low-key let him get away with a lot of BS. If you think about it, like he's not the most liked player in the NBA. He's obviously hated in New York for many reasons. But I don't know where they go because they're in a weird position where DeJounte's not going to carry you to the playoffs. John Collins sure as hell isn't going to carry you anywhere. Onyeka's a good role player, but he's not going to really thrive into a starting gig. Clint Capella is another guy that, we know who he is. He is a rebounding center that can somewhat score if he gets open lobs, but they're a weird team. I will say that. And I didn't think DeJounte and Trae would fit, and it kind of proved itself. They don't fit together. Two ball dominant playmakers. One's inside, one's outside. It's hard to hide someone where you don't have a ton of perimeter guys either. DeAndre Hunter's always hurt. You traded away Cam Reddish for nothing, and you're really in a spot where it's make or break if you think about it. Because he says if there's no playoff success, he's out. So the Hawks
Then you
are kind of
have, like
in a weird
AJ
position.
Griffin. I just don't know unless you get a serious piece that you can kind of build around, like what that would even look like outside of just kind of being a play into lottery team for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and what's his value? Like he's obviously a great offensive player, great playmaker, but defensively he gives up almost as many as he gets, right? So
Mhm.
what's the point of adding another guy like that? Like the Heat are a good system for him, but is Tyler Hero that much worse than Trae Young? I don't think it's substantial enough to be like, yeah, that's a title contender.
I think
So
Miami might also be slightly interested in reshuffling the cards, just because what they were running is getting a little stale with the pieces they have currently. It's not seem like they're really going to go for another 2020 finals run. So
Yep.
maybe they are just desperate enough to kind of be like, screw it. We believe that we can make Trae Young a dependable superstar and ideally not one of the worst defensive players in the league, which he is currently.
yeah, and I think
Mm-hmm.
in terms of assets, like they have the two first round picks, 2023 and 2027. And then they have Tyler Hero and probably Duncan Robinson to throw in for like the money. Is that
Or Kyle
enough?
Lowry.
Does anyone even want Kyle Lowry at this point? Like, so like this is a weird situation. You know, Trae Young is a obviously I'm not a big Trae Young fan. I never really have been.
Mm-hmm.
Great playmaker, great shooter, great finisher. Just defensively, he is so garbage. And
Yep.
you have to be serviceable in the league to be like a superstar. He's nowhere near serviceable. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see what happens just because I love drama in the NBA, especially when it's not with the Warriors. So I think it's gonna be good. But okay,
Yeah.
CJ, what do you think about the Lakers? Do you think the Lakers would ever need Trae Young?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, the Lakers need just about everybody. You see those graphics every year. But I definitely he would help out, but unless the Hawks want Kendrick Nunn and Pat Beverly and those two picks, it's not happening, right? Um, any team that is looking for a score first option is gonna especially want Trae Young. But like you said, um, he has to be able to play two ways. Like obviously he's been compared to Steph, right? And the knock with Steph earlier in his career was that he wasn't able to hold his own. So what did he do? He got bigger, he got stronger, and now he's a capable defender, right? And so, in order for him to be more desirable more than he is now, he's gonna have to improve on that end. And so, yeah, in short, like obviously, like I would definitely love to have him in LA. But all right, now our defense is very suspect. We started off very good, but now it just wouldn't make sense. Now, if you're looking for showtime for sure, right? Um, yeah, it just
I think it would be interesting fit between Trae Young and LeBron. I don't think it would
yeah,
work just because
definitely
LeBron
not.
makes everyone a jump shooter,
Yep.
but
And
we'll
I think
see.
there's something said that like Trae Young, even if he has all the assists that you would want, might not be
Hmm.
like a best player for your team rather than kind of like an individual statistic. I'm not saying he's hunting for statistics. He just racks it up because he's a great player. But I don't know if it
Hmm.
always is the best decision for the team just to have Trey kind of run pick and rolls and take jumpers and get fouls.
Yeah, I think he's a weird NBA player in terms of like he's not great off ball. He's a ISO kind of guy that thrives in the pick and roll. So I don't know many teams that would need a guy like that, but I think the Lakers and Anthony Davis they would thrive together, but LeBron
Yep.
definitely would not thrive with it.
Hmm. Agree.
But going on to our second topic with James Harden, apparently there's a Woj recently reported that he could reunite with the Rockets if the Sixers weren't going to give him a long-term contract. I think the number that I saw was floating around was apparently 4-year, $160 million. Do you guys think this would be a good idea for the Rockets to reunite with James Harden? CJ, why don't you start us off?
As great of a player that he is, I don't think so. They have a young core that's somewhat starting to figure out. I know we talked about this earlier, Spence, how it's just they've been bad. But I mean, an example of it is tonight, KPJ had 36, Sangoon had 20 plus, Jalen Green had 24. And I think putting Harden there in a situation where the Rockets are in the middle of a rebuild, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. And if you do put Harden there and he does attract other free agents, then it puts them at a stalemate. Like, where are we right now? Are we trying to compete or are we trying to rebuild? And obviously, it's good for the city of Houston, right? James Harden did a lot for them, even though in the playoffs he wasn't really as successful as you would think because he ran into you guys. But yeah, it's just to me, it just doesn't make sense because they have all these young pieces that are playing free and are pretty much doing as they would on the court. You put James Harden there, it pretty much puts everybody like, okay, now we go from having the keys to the offense, all three of us, those three guys I named, to all right, we got to stand around and let James Harden do his thing, and hopefully, you know, he can pass the ball to us. But yeah, to me, I don't think it makes sense. I think we saw the reaction that he had when somebody asked him, right? And I think for the better of his career, he should stay in Philly. At least there, he has more of a better chance of competing.
Yeah, I think it just makes a lot more sense for James Harden to stay in Philly, where he has a legitimate superstar teammate in Joel Embiid. They don't have a great chance to make the finals every year, but they like if you're a Sixer fan, you'd be like, okay, maybe this year's the year. Like you're not delusional for thinking that. But if you do go to Houston, it would be a weird situation, but both sides would have to be realistic. Like even with James Harden, Houston is not going to be a serious power in the Western Conference. If he comes in and it's like, all right, I'm going to be a leader for these younger guys. I'm not going to try to get 35 every game because it doesn't really matter if we're going to be the 10th seed regardless. And I know James Harden doesn't have like the best like work ethic, they would say. No one's going to confuse his for LeBron's or anything like that. But I think having a professional all-star, that's not a bad thing for like some of these guys who don't have that. And if you're just gonna have 40 million in cap space, so why not throw 35 at James Harden just to have someone to make people go to Houston Rockets game? I mean,
You disconnected for a second.
oh my bad.
No, you're
Did
good.
y'all
You're good.
where did I leave?
Yeah, you're good, bro.
No, just it left off about attracting free agents.
And just like have an interesting team, have an interesting product. Houston Rockets have been bad for pretty much since they got rid of James Harden. Even that last bit with James Harden was not pretty, but make it interesting to watch Houston. I'm happy when these kind of tanking teams are like, screw that. Let's try to become competitive. They've gotten Jabari, they've gotten Jalen Green. Like they've had their bouts with the lottery. And obviously James Harden's not going to take him to a Western Conference Finals like he once did. But I'm not mad at them wanting to mix things up either.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because James Harden isn't gonna impact their winning, right? Like he's not going there to win games. He's going there for the money, one, and two, maybe he can help Jalen Green and maybe Kevin Porter figure it out because they're both kind of creating a lot of bad habits. Jalen Green he's a shot chucker. Let's be honest. He's a shot
Yeah,
chucker. He's a great scorer, tough shot maker, but he's a shot chucker. Kevin Porter's around the same thing, better playmaker. Obviously not good at or not as polished as a scorer, but a decent scorer. I think the only thing that worries me is Jabari Smith. He takes a ton of threes now. If James Harden goes to Houston,
Facts.
that's all he's going to be. He's just going to be relegated to the Ryan Anderson role. And that's concerning because he's not that great of
Spot
a
up.
shooter yet. And
And
Dylan, you're
there's
right.
his game potentially. Like they have
Yeah.
to see that through rather than just be like, okay, go stand in the corner, James. But I think that's the whole thing about being realistic. Like if
Yeah.
James comes in thinking that's the situation, that's going to be an awful fit. He's going to want out again. It's just going to be the same situation. But I don't know. I believe in even this last like 12 months of James Harden, Philadelphia 76er basketball, he hasn't been that guy that just takes 28 shots a game.
Yeah.
Even in the playoffs, there was sometimes where it was like, man, you're James Harden, shoot the freaking basketball. Like, I don't know. I think there's a little bit more to his game than just like the kind of jokes you see on the internet about him dribbling for 20 seconds and then jumping into someone and getting to the line.
Yeah, I think with James Harden, Houston was great, but also bad for him. He created a lot of bad habits, and I think he became too reliable on his ability to drive and draw fouls. And then you've seen in the Sixers or with the Sixers, he's kind of become more skilled at getting to the basket, kind of going back to his early days, which is good to see because he needs that. I think it would be a good fit if he is realistic. Like Dylan, you're right. He needs to be realistic about what he's going to bring to the table. If he's not, then I think he could really, really mess up the entire organization again.
Yeah.
And as a Warriors fan, like go for it. I don't care. I'd love to see the Rockets struggle, especially with James Harden back there. But it could really hinder the development of the rest of the team. And this team, you honestly don't need a ton. You don't even need the lottery picks. The only one I would think about is Scoot because you need a point guard because Kevin Porter Jr. is more of like a six man to me. Scoot Henderson would be perfect on this team. But this is a weird Rockets team, or not a weird Rocket. It's a good Rockets team in terms of the young core, but they just need to continue to develop. They need to stay the course. I think it wouldn't be good for the development, but it could be a way to definitely get people back to watching the Rockets. But if you're the Rockets, do you guys think that they need to entertain this idea, or do you think they need to even like go after it, or do you think they should just let it come to them? If James Harden calls you and says, "Hey, I want to come back," you're like, "Okay, come back." Or do you want
Not
to?
necessarily that easily, just because if it's like, man, I want to average 35 again, if you're the Rockets, you can't have that happen
Yeah,
again. But if they're in house thinking like, man, I don't know if this core has like a leader. I don't know if they have like someone that the younger player to someone to kind of like show them winning ways. I mean, James Harden won 60 games for like 2 years, and then I don't know, those Rockets teams were solid, even
yeah,
if you want to discredit them for only shooting threes, which I kind of get. Uh, but there is value, and I think if Houston's personnel, who probably knows the young players better than anyone of themselves, is like, man, we need something external to come in and try to get these guys on the right path, then they should. Maybe not James Harden, maybe a different old veteran player that they have to listen, like the younger players will respect and give their ear to. Because right now they're just kind of really bad for like the third, fourth year in a row, and that's just a losing culture.
yeah. You really can't develop a losing culture. I think the
Yeah,
Hornets are kind of
I
there
think
now.
yeah. I was just gonna say like if anything, the Rockets should just wait for it to happen. I don't think they shouldn't go out and try to lure him back into the organization unless they really want ticket sales and the whole thing of he's back type thing. But unless they can have a situation similar to what CP3 did for OKC and how they made the postseason and how they did have success, I don't think that they should go ahead and look for it. Like Dylan said, it doesn't have to necessarily be CP3. And if the front office has high confidence in their young players right now that they think that they can take the next step, and by all means, go after a proven veteran. But somebody of James Harden's caliber, somebody that wants to get a title, um, I think common sense wise, it just doesn't make sense for him personally. Even if they give him all the money in the world, you know, his legacy will always be going into the postseason and losing to you guys, in my opinion, not having any success and not being able to do it right. But if he wants a shot at a ship, not a guarantee, but just a shot, then he stays with the Sixers. And the Rockets, I think the Rockets know that. Obviously, they would love to entertain the idea of a reunion, but it just doesn't make sense. So they shouldn't go out and look for it.
I mean, he might just miss the strip clubs, if we're being honest.
Facts.
I mean, for $1 million in a Houston strip club, I say run it back. Let's those women deserve the bag, bruh.
They do. They do. They work
They
hard, man.
agreed.
And if
Agreed.
he, where else would he go? Because it seems like James Harden's spiel usually runs its course kind of quickly.
Yeah.
Since he's already kind of looking around like a year into his Philly stay, where else would make sense if it's not going to be Brooklyn, if it's not going to be Houston, if it's not going to be Philadelphia?
I know there are rumors about the Warriors because we have the assets. I don't want him at all. Let's be real. But I know
Aaron
that that would not be fun. Lakers honestly
Yeah.
kind of makes sense because he's from the LA area. They love their star power. They need stars.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I don't know how Braun and Harden would fare together.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're being 100% honest, James Harden's best chance was with Brooklyn.
it was.
It was with Brooklyn. And, him going to another person that needs the ball, it's not, I just don't see it working out, unfortunately. It would, obviously, on paper, it would look great. But, like you guys have mentioned, the James Harden effect will run its course and he will be out of his way soon enough if he ends up in LA. As long as it's not in the Clippers, then it's all good with me.
What do you think, Dylan?
It's tough. I would have to like look at really who has the cap space to make a move because it's all about being realistic. If you're looking for James Harden to be your like 1A right now, your team probably isn't going to be super duper good. Like, and
Yeah.
obviously there's 30 teams in the league, not everyone's going to be super good, and you kind of got to like work with what you have. But I don't even know where the fit is right now, and maybe that's why he's kind of squinting and like maybe I'll just go back to Houston. I think Philly makes the most sense. And has he played with a better player than Joel Embiid? Or I
I
mean, I
don't
guess
think so.
that's like young James Harden, like not as a James Harden he is today.
Yeah.
I would I would have to lose in the playoffs a couple more times before I'm ready to give that up.
It must be that there's like they don't want to give because he accepted the 1 year deal. It must be that they want a 1-and-1 or a 1 year deal. He wants to go into his mid-30s with some kind of security and like a 4 year deal. That's my only guess.
I can't blame for the Sixers for not wanting to do that though. Like
He's been super injury prone since getting there. And putting two injury prone stars,
shape.
yeah. But I do agree, like they're his best bet. Tyrese Maxey is only getting better when healthy. Joel Embiid is obviously great. PJ Tucker is there. Daniel House looks solid, but if they can get rid of Tobias Harris, you have a solid squad. Like you have a chance. But right now the East it runs through Milwaukee and Boston. And I don't think the Sixers have enough. Not even close. And on to the last topic. Miles Bridges reportedly is gaining traction to re-sign with the Hornets. So obviously he pled no contest to beating his wife in front of their child. I don't know. And obviously this doesn't mean he pled guilty. He admits no guilt, but he accepts the consequences basically. And he didn't get any jail time. It's pretty much just community service, going to parental classes for a year, and like some other kind of classes. I think it was domestic abuse classes. Regardless of the conviction, there's absolutely no way in hell I would ever sign him. Just no way in hell. Doesn't matter how bad my team is. I could not care less. This is one of the most shocking things I've seen from the NBA in a long time. And the fact that they're going to just let him come back, because they've already said they're not going to ban him. It's going to be some kind of suspension. My guess is the rest of the year if he gets signed. But what do you guys think that this says about the Hornets and the organization?
It says that they're just super duper desperate and that they're kind of flailing, that they think that they could potentially lose LaMelo, or just that they're pretty much squandering their opportunity of real success, and that they're willing to bet on this dude who was just convicted, or not. I don't want to get the words wrong. It does not seem like he's innocent. I will go
Yeah,
that far.
yeah,
These really out of pocket crimes in front of his family, against his family. Uh, but you saw the commissioner talking him up, chatting post game. You saw him dancing with LaMelo. It seems like it's a matter of time. This feels like an NFL move.
it does. It
Yeah,
does.
that's how I feel.
What do you think, CJ?
Yeah, Dylan said it perfectly. Desperation. First of all, I can definitely speak on behalf of all of us. We do not condone anything that Miles Bridges did, and um, for every woman that's dealing with it everywhere, they should definitely speak up and get the justice that they deserve. But I do want to say that, yeah, Miles Bridges should not be an NBA player. Um, Talking talent wise, obviously he can still play. Good player. He was in a contract year. We discussed this earlier in the previous podcasts, but just based on what he did, it just how does that make your organization look? How does that make the league look? It just it just looks terrible. And I don't care how bad the team is, like you said, Spence. Like I could go 0-82 and I still would not get his help. And some might say that's extreme, but what he did was just unforgivable. That's somebody's mom, somebody's sister, auntie, all that stuff. And yeah, it just doesn't make sense. I wanted the Hornets to get in front of it and just cut ties with him. And obviously there was a lot of teams that were definitely interested in his services, but it just makes you look bad. And I know, unfortunately, whatever team gets him, whether it's the Hornets or somebody else, what he did will just get tucked under the carpet. And it's a shame because um, we should shed light in these types of things. But talking strictly basketball, obviously he can still play. And I don't know how much he's going to help the Hornets at this point of the season. I know there's a lot of games left, but it'll just make them look even more worse. And, you know, MJ, not a good move by the GOAT if they get him. So yeah, desperation is like what Dylan said, is definitely what I see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dangerous move if you think about it. This is kind of opening up a lot of like a can of worms, right? Kind of shows other NBA players you can kind of get away with this stuff. Not that a lot of NBA players would do it, but it's just sad. And this, I think, Miles Bridges is probably ex-wife now. She's related to Andrew Wiggins' wife, I think. So it's weird. And how do you guys think this makes Michael Jordan look? Because he's, no matter how he phrases it, he's kind of the face of the organization. So what do you guys think about, what do you think it says about him?
I feel like what more failures would it take just for him to step down? He has the most successful, like accomplished NBA career that you could imagine. It's flawless. And then he's just become GM and it's kind of stunk up the joint for a cool 20 years. And this would be almost a low point, like same level of taking MKJG second overall, like
Yeah.
the same level of just what are you doing to your franchise, and just like leaving your fans with more questions than answers when you take a guy whose jump shot looks like this. And then 10 years later, we're looking at bringing back a guy who just got caught beating up a woman, like your baby's mother. Like it's not, I mean, obviously beating up anyone's wrong,
Yeah.
but it gets even worse when you get these familiar family ties.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's pretty ugly.
I just think it makes MJ look like he doesn't know what he's doing. This is another topic in its own right, but the Hornets are the only team to not get a Christmas game, right? So it's already funny at that point. But for him to make a decision like this, him and I believe Mitch Kupchak is still um,
I think he
VP
is
or
still. Yeah.
yeah. So it makes them both look bad, and I don't think that there's a lot of free agents out there, young guys, G League. Obviously, Miles Bridges has familiarity with the organization, but it's just not a good mood or good move in terms of what you're trying to show to the kids and everybody else that's watching. Personally, I think if if the Lakers, for example, signed him, like I definitely would be discouraged. And I'm just one person to a sea of fans, but it just logically it doesn't make sense, and doesn't. It doesn't look good on MJ. It only confirms and fuels more of him not knowing what to do. So I say they don't do it. Hopefully they don't, but I wouldn't be surprised.
And it's
Yeah.
just out of all the players to like go out on a limb morally for, how are you choosing to do so for Miles Bridges? It's
Facts.
Yeah.
for any player, it's like you're just damn near a criminal. Like, what are you doing trying to get these players? And then it's like not an all-star, not like a guy you can build around. He's a good, like a real solid piece. And the Hornets were about to give him a boatload of money last year, but it's not like he is even a player like Deshaun Watson is a franchise quarterback, even if he's an awful person.
Yeah.
Miles Bridges isn't that player. It's even more of a head scratcher where it's like, man, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's very confusing, but I mean, Michael Jordan's the same person that screwed up Kemba Walker's career. So it's very disheartening as an NBA fan to know that this player's probably going to come back, not even a whole season after everything. It's bad. It's pretty bad. I think it's probably the worst that I've lived through if it happens. So I hope it doesn't happen. I hope something comes up and they're like, okay, we're gonna back off of it because there's just no need to have them. Your team already sucks. You're not gonna win 20 more games with Miles Bridges, and he's probably gonna get suspended for the rest of the season either way. So you're gonna pay him to not play.
Might
Why?
as well try to get Victor.
Yeah, might as well tank and get something.
Yep, agreed.
But that's gonna do it for us and the 85th podcast for Full Court Talk. Thank you, Don, for coming on. Thank you, CJ, for coming back.
Yeah, of
Actually,
course.
before I go, let me get you guys with a little something. Tell me the best NBA or basketball Christmas gift you've ever got, or gift overall. I'm not trying to like make it Christmas exclusive. It could be birthdays, whatever you want to. However, you got anything, you could have stole that. I don't care. Tell me the story.
Man,
I think my favorite gift is probably like my first Steph jersey because like that was different, man. Steph was like easily my favorite player. Has been for a long time. But Steph, like that Steph jersey, that first one, nothing like it.
it's different, huh?
Yeah, hits different.
Yeah. um, I would say, I mean, I don't think this counts as a gift because I had to buy it, but these Kobe's that I recently or 2 years ago I got, not being able to afford them as a kid, and then now that we're a little bit older, I was able to afford it. So, and it was during Christmas time, so I think that's probably the best one. The Grinches. So
Oh,
yeah,
Spence, you got those too, right?
Yeah, I have them too.
That's what's
How
up.
about you, Dylan?
yeah.
All right, the one that came to mind, it's again like one of the first jerseys I got. I think it was like 2012. It wasn't the first sleeved ones, the ugly yellow one. It wasn't those. It was like the white jerseys, but with the t-shirt sleeves. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? They wore them for like one season,
Was it the
and I got
Chinese New Year one?
nah. It was dead ass just the white home, but with a sleeve. And I got
Mm.
Clay, and I was like a dick. I just wanted to disagree with people. I was like, I like Clay more than Steph, just because I don't know. I'm like 11 out of my own preference. And I got my Clay jersey, and I was like, hell yeah! Like everyone had a Steph jersey because he was popping at the time. I was like, yeah, number 11. That's right. Clay's been my guy. But
I actually have that ugly ass yellow one.
you do?
I do.
I I swear those are so hard to find. I'm trying to get a Jarrett Jack yellow. That's like my grail. I want that.
Speaking of Jared Jack, I met him at the finals.
How did that happen?
He was sitting like 2 rows above me.
You're like, what's up, man?
We just looked back, like I was with my cousin. We just looked back, like, holy shit, that's Jared Jack. And then we got him to sign. Like I had a Steph Fathead. He signed the back of it. That was one of the weirdest moments, but it was like he was so cool. He was just so nice,
If
and
I
it
see
must have been super weird to be sitting up in like the lower bowl on your former team watching the finals.
if we see a Jarrett Jack autograph Steph Fathead, we're all gonna know it was you, Spencer.
It's
I
never gonna get sold. Staying with me forever.
That's that Jarrett. You gotta keep that close to the chest too.
But anyway, the yellow jersey, I have it signed by Harrison Barnes.
Is it an HB
Wow.
jersey?
No, it's a Steph jersey. Bro,
That's
I don't
funny.
know what I was doing back then, but like I was a season ticket holder, and they had this like thing where you go to like food vendors come and like the players like walking around doing whatever. And so I saw HB, got him to sign it. Couldn't get Steph. Steph wouldn't sign it, but it's for another day. But
Dude, I need me. I just need. I can't. I gotta stop holding out for the Jarrett Jack. I gotta get one of those ugly. I want the shorts too with the vertical stripes. I want the whole yellow mustard outfit. And the 2013 Warrior fans will know what's up. Everyone else will just think that I'm like blind. But oh well.
those got to be top 5 ugliest jerseys, no doubt.
The Dallas Maverick trash bags, and then those.
Those are bad too. Those are really bad. God. But anyways, that's gonna do it for us. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for coming on. This was fun.
Of course, bro. Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, of course, man. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.